The information provided in this podcast is for general knowledge and informational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional for diagnosis and treatment of any medical condition. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Unplugged Healthcast or Dr. Wall.
What we're starting to see now is moderate exercise does not even outrun a full day of sitting anymore. You need to be doing stuff every day outside, not only outside of work, but in work. Can you increase your step limit during the day? Can you increase your movement during micro breaks?
Neck pain, backaches, headaches, fatigue, the list goes on, and you're likely on it. Tired of the broken system and big pharma? We offer logical solutions, teach you to think critically, and empower you to reclaim your health. Welcome to the Unplugged Healthcast with Dr. Kevin Wall.
Hey, welcome back to the Unplugged Healthcast. This is Dr. Wall, your host. And have you ever noticed before your muscles getting tight? Have you ever had where they get knots or feel stiff? Have you ever had spasms? Take muscle relaxers and then just they spasm right back up. You stretch them out, get a massage, and they just 2 days later, you feel like you got to do it again. Today, our topic, what's up with your muscles? There's two things you have to know to unplug yourself from this carousel, this matrix of chronic muscle issues. Two numbers I need you to remember, 45 and 650. 45 is the percent of nerves in your body controlling and coordinating all the muscles. Your brain communicates from the motor nerves through your spine to all muscles to control and coordinate, talking, communicating for the sole purpose for them to contract or relax. 45% of all the nerves in your body are doing this. That would tell you the importance of the motor function. 650, this is the amount of muscles in the average human body. Your brain is doing an amazing job controlling and coordinating your muscles. Your muscles are not magically working on their own. They don't have a brain or a central system, and they don't just magically work. They are told what to do. And your neuromuscular system has two main functions. It is designed to either move you or stabilize you. If you are getting up, sitting down, standing, walking, moving around, running, throwing, jumping, your brain is communicating through the motor nerves to all of your muscles to make that happen. If you're sitting, standing in an upright position, gravity-based, your motor nerves are communicating to your muscles to stabilize you. So ultimately, if you are resting, laying down, non-gravity, your muscles should be nice and relaxed, soft and pliable. But have you ever noticed when you go to the massage therapist and she says or he says that, man, your muscles are tight, your muscles are knotted up. You take those muscle relaxers, you join the gym, you stretch out. No matter what you do, it just keeps knotting back up, tightening back up. Well, this is a problem. This is abnormal. This is telling you there's something wrong underlying. You need to think past the signs and the symptoms. See, your muscles are talking to you. They're telling you there's something wrong. On our podcast, we say health is more simple than you think it is. There are three things going on that are going to be causing 95% of these muscle tight spots, muscle knots, muscle spasms. Here they are. If your shoulders are tight, routinely stiff, your range of motion is reducing, it's because either your muscles are weak or atrophied, your joint is unstable or degenerative, or the nerves are not communicating correctly from your neck to your shoulder muscles. If your lower back is tight, stiff, not moving, or knotted up, is because the muscles are weak or atrophied, the joints are unstable or degenerative, or the nerves are not communicating correctly. And if your hips and your legs are tight, stiff, or knotted up, it's because your muscles are weak or atrophied, your joints are degenerative or unstable, or your nerves are not communicating. So that seems a little more simple than you think it should be, but I'm telling you, it's just about that simple. Now, correcting it maybe not be as simple as that. And to really solve this today, I brought in a couple of experts, some colleagues of mine, some guys I love to hang out with, the creators and founders of the Functional Code podcast, clinic directors, chiropractic physicians for two of our AFC Physical Medicine centers. If you guys would welcome into our show Dr. Jace Nybo and Dr. Addison Knudsen. Guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
You appreciate it.
Hey, this is a quandary. I know you see it a lot. It's probably one of the reasons you guys started the Functional Code podcast, I can imagine. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the podcast, why it exists, how to find you, and a little bit about your practices?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we made the function code is a lot of times when we're working with patients, we have so much knowledge that we want to give to people that we just don't have enough time. So a lot of this is to create that time and put it into a video. And then also I like the part to where it also has like a longevity aspect to it too, to where people can go back and reference the videos on anything that we learned. And each episode we do a deep dive, look at the research, look at the applications, tools. So it helps people more so for the longevity aspect of things too.
Brain, body, wellness, longevity, those are really the topics that we sit and talk about. The Functional Code can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're also on TikTok, Instagram. You can pretty much find us always at the Functional Code podcast. So yes, if you guys are interested, we'd be more than happy to have you guys listen in. And we're just grateful for the opportunities to everyone to continue listening to what we've been doing. I know a lot of people are starting to share the podcast, and it's starting to make us feel like absolutely what we're doing is being seen, and that's helping us because we want to make sure that we're influencing and creating value for anybody who is listening. And so it's been a journey, and it's been extremely fun with Doc to do this.
Awesome. Well, my conversation about muscle abnormalities, you guys are in clinic. You guys see this all the time. How many times have you heard patients say, oh, man, my muscles are just tight, or I'm always stiff, and they're getting massages, they're taking the medications, they're doing all kinds of stuff, but it never goes away. Talk about maybe, what you see in the clinics and this conversation I had about there are three main issues that really lead to this. Is that true, or are there other things that they should understand?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes back down to what tissue that you want to either target, because a lot of that overlying tissues, whether it's joint caps, ligaments, tendons, all that will be re-regulated through also with the muscle. So knowing what target you're trying to hit will have better results, to be more specific on presentation.
Doc does a great job of talking about just the importance of joints, and I think that's something that is a great kind of key conversation piece that I like to have with a lot of patients. And so they have this idea that to get stronger, they have to work their muscles, and it's part of the equation. But what I think a lot of people forget is just how important the joint is when it comes to stability of the body. And so, Doc, do you want to just break down a little bit quickly how you talk about that? Because I think he does a great job.
So one of the biggest things in terms of joints to the brain is there's no delay between the joint, spinal cord, brain, to where overlying muscles, there's a slight delay at the spinal cord, at the inner neurons specifically, and then gets kicked back up to the brain. So automatically, joint takes highest priority. So we start moving the joints pain-free around the fullest range of motion. Overlying muscles then subsequently relax. So we're able to get into those muscle knots easier. We're able to increase range of motion much quicker. And all this is built in to the AFC systems. I did some training with some of the PT techs, and I thought the training went really well. So now it's available to all AFC clinics. I think that puts us on the top tier in terms of just rehabbing itself, which subsequently we're probably one of the best in the nation at it.
Yeah, most clinics, just to toot our own horn a bit, the muscle gets tight, they stretch it out. not saying that's bad. It just doesn't really fix it. The joint's unstable, they give it an injection, or, they adjust it and it feels better, but then it comes back. Unless you really think beyond and the complexity of how the muscles, the nerves, and the joint all function together. And I think that's what you're saying. And it sounds to me like that's what a lot of your podcast is about, is just understanding the complexity of how this all fires in a pretty complex fashion. It doesn't mean it's complex to fix, but you got to get past just one symptom, one thing. Can't just treat the muscle, leave the joint. Can't just treat the joint, leave the muscle. Can't ignore the nerve and expect the muscle or the joint to really get healthy, right?
100%.
Yes.
We're going to watch a brief, very viral reel on muscles and the importance of muscles for your health, your longevity. Let's take a moment and just take a quick look at that, and then we're going to have a conversation about it.
Muscle is the organ of longevity. If you lose muscle as you age, you are going to be in a bad situation. I mean, we need muscle to get out of a chair.
Yeah.
You need muscle to perform daily life functions. The other thing people don't realize about muscle is in muscle are insulin receptors. So if you lose muscle, you don't have as many insulin receptors, which means you're now putting yourself in a more insulin resistant state, which means you have to stay on the medication forever to be able to stay at the weight you want, because you don't have the same insulin sensitivity. So again, it's like the calorie in, calorie out. Short-term result, long-term consequence.
Well, there's a lot of conversations for sure about muscle mass, how much muscle, protein intake, all these things relative to this. Why don't you speak, if you will, into maybe just muscle? How do you build it? What's the best way to maintain it? And what's its relationship, in your experience, to some of the longevity or maybe even the blood sugar issues she was talking about?
Yeah, so she's exactly right. When we have more muscle mass, that is directly inverse relationship to insulin resistance. So when we have a lot more muscle, we have the way better insulin sensitivity. And that's because when we have a lot of muscle, we have more GLUT4 receptors. And when we have a lot of GLUT4 receptors, when insulin is secreted, the body is able to take in way more glucose out of the bloodstream. And so muscle is about, I think, 80% of postprandial glucose is taken up by muscle after we eat. And so when we have high amounts of muscle, we have the ability to regulate our blood sugars much more efficiently. And so not only that, we've seen in studies how muscle mass is highly correlative to longevity, health span, lifespan. It's also shown to be improved in cognitive function. It can lower all-cause mortality. It can lower the risk of death. There are studies showing that if you have good strength and muscle mass, even just 1 to 2 times of resistance training a week can lower your risk of death by 10%. You add in cardio training with that, that's 40% now. So we're seeing that not only does it help you aesthetically looking and pleasing, but it isn't an organ of longevity. And I think a lot of times we've missed that point because we've really just focused on fat in the last 70 years. And yeah. I think one of the better providers that have spoken about this is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she stated that in the last 70 years we've only focused on fat, but yet our obesity epidemic is rising.
Yeah.
And he goes, why is that? And it's like because we're missing the boat, we're missing the mark. And so I think if more of us were to stop focusing so much on fat, and we were to actually start thinking more about our muscle mass and how we move and how we function, that will already directly affect not only our weight, but our function in life as well.
After an injury, it can feel like life's on hold, but at AFC, we're here to help you get back to what matters. With personalized injury plans and our expert staff, we don't just treat the pain, we guide you back to strength and confidence. Because getting back isn't just about healing, it's about thriving. Call us or visit our website to start your journey today.
Building muscle and developing muscle, I know you enough to know that, Dr. Addison, that you struggle on keeping muscle mass on your body, where a lot of people maybe struggle on keeping weight off. You try to keep weight on. What are the ways maybe between you, and I know you have some feedback, Dr. Jace, on what's the best way to build muscle? What are the supplements people need to be taking? And if we're not going to focus on fat, then what do we focus on doing?
Doc, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. One, it's either going 1 rep max to like you're moving a high weight or against a high resistance, which subsequently is more firing of the nervous system and the nervous system's communication to the muscle tissue.
One big, just trying to bench max out like I used to do back in football, just as hard as you can, as high as you can, and only a couple times or even once, huh? Okay. So is there benefit to that? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but people still do that? Because I thought that was the days of the 70s.
Yeah, usually they stay somewhere around like lines of like a six rep max or a 3-rep max.
Okay.
But you can still get the similar effect with less risk of injury if you go up.
So I'm picturing what that does is it breaks muscle down kind of hard for that day. Then you recover for the next 2 days, but then you recover in more muscle mass, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it is that nervous system's communication through the motor units to the tissue, and the more that the strength that you can muster up increases the motor units to the tissues, thus the muscle will apply to the demand, if we will. So it'll more or less create more size of the muscle. There has been some research to where we can see certain people of higher athletic stature can increase the number, but it's very few in between. So we increase the size.
So hard, short, 1 time, 2-3 reps. And can everybody do that, or should it just be certain people do that? The younger and the older people shouldn't. I'm curious, is there a group that is, or do you mix that up with other types of exercise and sporadically change it up?
Yeah, you would usually want to sporadically change that up. I wouldn't start a novice or untrained person at that intensity because they're going to adapt much quicker. So then you can go to any of the other 3, which is like increasing this, moving a load or resistance at high speed possible, or you go into time under tension or time to failure. So you're moving at objects or you're holding a body position until you can't anymore, or you go into you moving objects but not till failure, time under tension. So usually I would have patients start with isometric contractions. So you're squeezing a muscle without moving.
Which is simple, and they can do this at home. Don't even need a gym membership, right? So they start maybe with that.
That way it allows less friction between the muscle bellies, which helps with the rehab process to start. Once they're able to increase the range of motion, move a little bit better, have less pain, then you can add in some different types of movements, increasing the intensities.
And isometric holds are really healthy for joint stability and health too, which is a great starting maybe exercise for people who have never worked out in a very long time.
Okay, so walk me through this. I'm sitting at home, I'm listening to this podcast, and I just know I need to build muscle mass. I don't have a gym membership. I don't like going to the gym. I get embarrassed when I go to the gym. All the things, right? Price, blah, blah, blah. So I hear this isometric contractions. I can do that. Do I start from my bottom and go through every joint and do this? To do my ankle, my knee, my hip, my back, my shoulders, my neck? Is that what happens? Elbows? Is that a good routine to start with and do that? Contract how many times? 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row, and how many times a week?
Honestly, as often as you possibly can. And yeah, you can go through every muscle belly group. Usually you want to start with the larger muscle groups first, whether it's quads, chest, shoulders, back, and just holding a light contraction as long as you possibly can. 1 or 2, you can go through light isometric contractions on and off all day long.
Okay, so you're just going to be sitting around at work at lunch and just when you think about it, contract that muscle, do it 2-3 times and move on.
What we're starting to see now is moderate exercise does not even outrun a full day of sitting anymore. That amount of sitting, that sedentary lifestyle is actually so hard on your body.
It's not like they got to do 2 hours, but they need to combine it sounds like, with some aerobic and some of this stuff.
You need to be doing stuff every day outside, not only outside of work, but in work. Can you increase your step limit during the day? Can you increase your movement during micro breaks? Dr. Jace talks a lot about workspaces, and that's kind of what you talked about with as far as how do I work each joint? And so, we'll talk about, okay, at this point in time, start to work your ankles, come up to the knee, and then maybe do the hip. Okay, next break, you're going to be doing more chest, maybe thoracic, lumbar, neck, and then maybe finish with shoulder, elbow, wrist. And this can be done in 30 seconds to a minute and 30 seconds if you really, take this small time to do it. And then, of course, you want to think about adding in movement.
So you go from isometric to movement and then movement with weights. Is that kind of the progression people should do?
Yeah. So resistance with the holds or movements is where we'll start to get higher levels of joint space workload. So, and the biggest thing too is just making sure that if you do have pain with this range of motion change, just be cautious of that. you want to either move around that space once you get to it, and then just kind of back off and go around it, because you don't want it to be painful at all. So, and this is really where we're starting patients on, is this is someone who does not work out, has limitations, probably has degenerative changes, and they're just looking on how do I improve my motion first and getting my function to improve. Once we start to work there, then they become more confident with movement, their pain is reduced, and they're actually able to do more. They're then able to feel like, hey, I can actually maybe go to the gym once a week, twice a week. That's where then, we talk more about resistance training, 1 rep max, a lot more stimulating, things like that.
So my conversation to start the show, where most joint muscle issues are really one or a combination of all three: muscles weak or atrophied, joints degenerative or dysfunctional or unstable, and the nerves not working. And it sounds like this type of activity, along with progression, it recruits all three of those things and helps deal with all three of those. Is that true?
And I think the last part that we missed was the nerve part of it, and that would be motor unit function.
Yes.
And I like talking to patients about what a motor unit is by this analogy. And so if you had, let's say 10 of your friends were standing around a very large refrigerator, you're trying to move it, okay, and all 10 of you pick up that fridge. 5 of them decided to just take their hands off and say, you know what, I think you guys got it. What do the other 5 probably feel at that time? It feels like a load or a burden. And that is what the motor units in your muscles are trying to do when they're moving the muscle. So when, let's say, we have full motor unit engagement, nervous system-wise, we go to lift something heavy and we can do it comfortably because we've trained to have all of the motor units firing when we are doing something. But the body is lazy, and it tries to recruit as the least amount of those motor units as possible to get the effort done, because it wants to conserve energy. So what we try to have patients try to think about is, if you haven't really worked your body in a very, very long time, you're not going to have a lot of motor unit recruitment when we start working out. And that's why you're going to feel weak, and that's why you're going to feel like you can't do a lot of these things right away. So it's going to take time to build it up. But eventually, neurologically, when you start to work out and consistently, you're going to have a lot higher motor unit firing. And Doc talks a lot about how to do that, kind of hack it and do it much better. And not only you should be working out in one plane, but you should be working out in multi-planar fashions, because when you are doing squats, concentric movements, curls, all these things in just one direction, you're only really firing in one area. Right. But if we're going to actually build strength and do it in a way that's comprehensive, we want to work every area, and that's where we start working in different planes of motion, and that's also neurologically very helpful.
So again, pretty simple stuff. Yeah. Don't have to be set, hired a trainer or just, 3 more, give me, no, it's just the understanding of simple biomechanics on moving function. All right, well, let's jump here, although that conversation was excellent. How do they build nutritionally, supplement-wise, no matter what they do, if their gut's bad or their diet's bad, there's not really good outcomes we're going to expect, right? Because what is the muscle being built by is what they're eating. So what should they be eating? How should they be digesting? Give them some feedback or advice on how to build muscle mass beyond or from a nutritional standpoint.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes back to get enough protein in the body, whether it's you're younger in age or older, you have to be getting enough protein so the body can utilize that for muscle growth, tissue building.
How much is enough? Because I've heard this so many different ways. How much protein? Is it based on age, weight, gender?
So here's a good myth breakdown that I think a lot of people have in their brain, and it used to be the old saying of right around 30 grams of protein is all your kidneys can handle at one amount of time. There have been research now showing that 100 grams at one time can actually be incredibly helpful. So I think what a lot of people are worried about is, I can't consume this much protein in one time, and so I have to kind of filter what I eat throughout the day, because I don't want to. They think if I eat too much, well, the body is just going to excrete it out. We're actually seeing, again, utilization up to 100 grams of protein in one sitting.
Is that enough for a day then?
I actually recommend minimum of 100 grams per day to patients above the age of 18. younger, it's all about body weight. In terms of body weight, I like 1 gram per 1 kilogram of weight.
What if they're an athlete? Do they need more?
Right. And I would say anywhere between 1.2 to 1.6 usually is a better ratio, especially if you're trying to either maintain or build mass.
Okay. So protein, of course, lots of great sources out there. Try to find the best, leanest meats, of course, or protein powders that are healthy, as well as anything down to tofu and beans, right? There's lots of opportunities for proteins, but anything else they should be taking? You hear about creatine and some of these other amino acids and other supplements that are out there. Are any of these any good?
Yeah, I like creatine quite a bit, and it helps for even a cognitive function, but also for tissue building. It helps a little bit for water absorption, but most of the body is made up of water in the first place, so it helps for all the chemical processes on that side. And then one thing that kind of piggyback on the protein topic, I think a huge potentiation for most people would be increasing protein in the morning, whether it's steak, chicken, have some in the fridge and then eat that, which starts your day off right. But going back to the supplements or any other types of things, I also say fish oil is really good for tissues. Vitamin D helps a lot with that. Vitamin D, K2. Amino acids, supplementing that is very similar to whey protein to a certain extent as well.
I agree with all of that. And I think one of the cheapest ways to supplement more protein is with a protein powder.
Pain holding you back? AFC Physical Medicine and Chiropractic Centers of Phoenix have real solutions to get your life back. With 9 valley-wide locations, we offer integrated care including chiropractic, medical, and nutritional support. Our approach goes beyond prescriptions, combining therapies to help you thrive. Don't let pain define your story. Take the first step towards living life to its fullest. Call us now at 480-210-6103 or visit afcchiropractic.com to schedule your appointment.
All right. Well, moving past that, there's a lot of controversy out there on some things relative to testosterone, taking anabolic steroids. Although it's probably hot to a lot of people, we've been talking about it. I know, Dr. A, you've been talking about it for years, and it's peptides. Let's watch just a quick reel on this one real quick, and then we're going to have a conversation about that.
I will never take anabolic steroids, but I will take peptides, and there's a huge difference between the two. And to educate you, here's my perspective. Steroids are injecting yourself with synthetic hormones. Most are not bioidentical. They have serious downstream consequences, but peptides are naturally occurring amino acids that tell your body what to go do. Let's say I take a peptide for muscle growth. It's not giving me testosterone, but it is giving me amino acids that are telling me to produce testosterone. Just like if I ate meat, I get amino acids from the meat that tell my body to produce more testosterone. But it is a more natural way to achieve a similar result. So over the course of the next few months, I'm going to be doing much more education on peptides, specific peptides and what they're good for and why they might benefit you and how they've benefited me. They've helped me recover from injuries much more quickly, and I'm going on the journey soon, and I will document my results here. Follow Get Natural Jackson.
All right. Well, definitely a couple of hot topics there. I want to kind of deal with this issue. I'm concerned, and I had Dr. Patrick Flynn come in here. We talked about testosterone and all the amount of the pellets and the shots that everyone's on, and I get it. It feels good, makes you look good in the mirror. Your gyms are full of it. The concerns of it, the effects of cardiovascular of taking testosterone are not questionable. No one's arguing this is an issue. It creates heart issues if it doesn't create genital issues. But they could avoid this by maybe doing peptides. Is that what's it's out there? Is this true?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that peptides really create as far as conversation is the ability to still get that 5 to 10% edge without a synthetic compound being put into your body. And so even though these are created synthetically, they look almost exactly like the peptides we have in our bodies. And so it's as close to what we make as possible. And so there's far less side effects, and a lot of patients prefer to have something like that.
Well, not to be contrary, but people will, I know, because I've heard it, my testosterone is bioidentical, or my hormones are bioidentical. They are synthetic. They are made to look like the body. Is that contradictory to what you just said, or is that true?
So really, I think if you were to compare maybe anabolic steroids to bioidentical testosterone, two different things. You're looking at using an exogenous hormone, testosterone, and your body will be utilizing that. Now, the only downplay is the body then relies on exogenous testosterone, and you stop secreting it yourself. Now they're saying that there isn't as much of a controversy towards our health with exogenous testosterone, but I think there's more research that needs to be put out there. But now if you were to take anabolic steroids, completely different. Yes, it jacks up not only your androgens, but very tough on your kidneys and very tough on your liver and your heart. So you have one versus the other, and I think we're starting to get smarter with how we are using performance enhancing.
Yeah, I don't think anabolics out there very much anymore. I don't see it much. I don't hear much. I don't see the guys that are just jacked up on it as much as you used to. So I think maybe they figured that one out. But I am a little concerned again that even the bioidentical testosterone issues, that's got other issues. I'm afraid we're going to find out, like we did with the anabolic, 5 or 10 years from now. Peptides, they're naturally created. They're in your body. Body's making them. What's the difference between us taking them and not creating that same issue where your body gets lazy? What's maybe the difference of us taking peptides versus us taking testosterone?
So peptides are messengers. That's maybe the better way to explain them. So when we take peptides, we don't directly influence the pathways that, stimulate, let's say, the creation of testosterone. So there are no peptides out there that can boost your testosterone. There isn't. But if you were to truly want to increase your testosterone, the only effective way is to take either bioidentical hormones or steroids. And that's really it. So the only thing with peptides, though, is you can still create change in the body without maybe directly affecting the main drivers of the pathways. So peptides, for example, will take growth hormone. This is something that peptides can do. So instead of taking full HGH, human growth hormone,
right,
you can take a peptide where it goes into the body and it communicates with your body to upregulate the secretion of growth hormone. So it's kind of more indirect. And that indirect pathway is much less, let's call it, potent to the body, and there's a lot less side effects. So really, you want to think of it as it's a helpful tool to increase, not so much a huge sharp increase in a compound. It's really only going to be used for that 5%, 10% edge. Now, there are other peptides that are being created into drugs that have a far more potent effect.
Yeah,
such as semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, all.
But those are chemically changed, and then again, now they're not really naturally created. Your body doesn't know what the heck to do with it. It'll create a reaction, but then there's a side effect and a side reaction you surely don't want, right? Exactly. But again, natural peptides. Where do people find these? How do they get these? Do they need a doctor? How do they deal with these?
If you're going to use peptides, I would highly recommend you start with a physician first. There are things that you should be getting done first: blood work, a full evaluation to make sure that this is something you should take. If the physician wants to work, with you in regards to certain peptides, then they usually are going to order those from a compounding pharmacy. And so that's where most peptides are created. Other than that, there are certain peptides that are being formed into supplements now too that you could purchase, but most peptides are for research purposes only or experimental in nature. So a lot of what you're going to be working with has not been evaluated by the FDA. It does not have FDA approval.
So we're not making recommendations here in the podcast for people to get on peptides because we're not your doctors. But I think what we're doing is setting the table, pushing this rock down the road a little further, because we're going to find out, I think, 5 years from now, this is the wave of the future of how people are going to probably prevent aging to the level that we're going to. Nobody's getting out alive, but we could, I always say, you could enjoy the ride a lot better. Okay, well, let's wrap up our podcast. And again, I always say, if people are still listening, which you guys know how hard it is to get people to finish a podcast, but if they're still listening, here's the best parts. We're going to finish with the top 5 to 6 ways that people can either stop this reoccurrent tight knot muscle spasm issue and or build muscle. I'm going to take the first 2. If you would, Dr. Jace, take the second 2, and Dr. A, bring it home with whatever you believe is the most important thing they should remember to help their musculoskeletal system be healthy for a lifetime and unplug from the matrix of muscle spasm release relaxers. Oh, I hate those things. Those things are horrible on your system. Stop the madness. All right, number 1 thing that you have to know, you have to remember, you should do to help your muscles be healthy for a lifetime is understand the difference between localized muscle problems and generalized muscle problems. Meaning that I just was chatting with someone online this morning that they worked outside for like 8 hours, lifting and moving, gardening in the spring. It's so fun. But for 2 days, she was stiff and sore afterwards. I'm not saying that's 100% normal, but that's a pretty normal thing when you overwork. But if you have 6 days later, 6 months later, or in localized areas where your muscles are tight, spasm, or knotted, it's not stress. I always hear, stress always affects me here. No. Rain doesn't make your roof leak. You have a crack. There's a problem in that area, biomechanically, structurally, muscle-wise, neurologically, something wrong, why that localized problem is keeps coming back. So remember that. And the second most important thing you got to know is relative to that is posture matters. That the further your body goes abnormal in its biomechanics, which means if your head shifts forward as you're sitting at the desk, if your body rolls forward because you're humped over the computers, if you're sleeping on big pillows on your stomach with your neck twisted, if you're bending and twisting wrong and your posture and your spine are jacked up, your muscles are going to be telling you. And all they're telling you is there's something wrong underneath it. They're compensatory reacting. They're tight because they're trying to correct something. They're spasming because there's an underlying issue. If you're having these reoccurring muscle problems, chances are you need a great chiropractor, a physical therapist, maybe even someone who understands posture and its relationship to your muscles. Your muscles are not pulling things out of place. Your muscles are doing what they're told to do, and that's coming mostly from your spine and your nervous system. So never forget, posture matters. Your muscles will tell you all about your posture. Listen to what they're saying and change your posture. All right, Dr. Jace, what do you got? What's your top 2 things people can do for their muscles or their body in a muscular skeletal standpoint?
I love those points too. I think the biggest thing to help for the tightness tension would be either putting pressure of your hand on where the tightness is and then trying to squeeze those muscles, or squeeze and then try to lengthen. So for example, if you guys are watching, put your other hand on your trap, try to squeeze that trap, squeeze that muscle, and then try to lengthen it. So bring your head opposite way, press the shoulder so you can get a contraction, relaxation, and then also the brain communication.
I love that. People got those knots in those traps all the time.
And then the second one would be moving throughout multiple ranges of motion, multiple planes of motion. So if you're going to do a bicep curl, kind of like what Dr. Addy said, don't go straight up and down, go off the inside, go off the outside, add in rotational work. So we're getting the transverse plane, we're getting sagittal frontal plane. So you can mix that up to bleed the energy to different tissues or so.
A lot of people who aren't getting enough protein, as we know, 100 is a lot for what the average person consumes, or they're struggling because they have acid reflux, digestive issues, they're not breaking down the proteins. Now, is it true that your body will go find the protein? 100%. And where will it find the protein typically at?
First thing to take is from the muscle.
That's what they don't realize. And then they start losing muscle mass. And then this spirals into a whole issue.
Yeah.
So this concept that he hit, I don't know, that could be the number one thing they need to remember walking away is you got to get more protein and you got to digest more protein. The best way to help you digest protein, protolase. Okay, so make sure your digestive enzymes, and then there are certain probiotics, bacteria that help you break down the protein as well. And they can find that online as well. All right, so digestive enzymes, probiotics, protein, and I'm going to throw one last one, magnesium. If you don't have enough magnesium, your muscles are going to struggle. They're going to spasm, they're going to cramp, they're going to be tight all the time. All right, guys. Well, I think we ran the gambit. Holy mackerel. If they didn't get something out of that, they weren't listening or they checked out. So hopefully you didn't check out. Hopefully you listen. And if you want your questions answered, you want further information, a couple simple things you can do. You can go to our website. You can leave a message, or you can be a call on the show, and we'll do it. We'll bring you on the show. We'll ask doctors like this to answer your questions and find you solutions. But I know also they can find you again one more time, your website and the podcast, to where they can find information on these type of topics.
This will be the functional code at any platform.
The functional code. And if they want to go and see you in a clinic, you're Dr. Addison in the AFC Physical Medicine Center of Phoenix, which is Uptown Phoenix, 12th Street and Missouri, I believe. And Dr. Jace, you're in East Mesa, which is such a popular area, and everyone seems to be moving there. Crazy buys, both busy, both effective. You need to call them up, see them, find them. They're going to help you. They're going to care more than any other doctor you probably have. So, all right, well, this is Dr. Wall and
Dr. J.
It is Dr. Ed.
We are checking out. Be blessed, be healthy, never give up, never give in. We'll see you again on the next episode of the Unplugged Healthcast.